All right, welcome into another episode of the News4JAGs podcast. Jamal St here alongside Justin Barney. All right, Justin, Monday Night Football on deck for the Jaguars. This is a big one. They started off 0-2.
Yep.
You can't afford to get to 0-3. I think we spent a lot of time talking on earlier this week and maybe ruffled a few feathers with our conversation about Trevor Lawrence.
Happens.
Look, it kind of is what it is at this point because the Jaguars' offense has been stagnant.
Yeah.
They got to get it going, and they got to get it going quickly, and they got to get it going on Monday night.
Fair or unfair, and you said earlier today, it always falls on the shoulders of the quarterback and the head coach. And fair or unfair, whether we were hard on Trevor earlier in the week or not, it has to be said. You've got to perform, especially the $275 million contract.
Right.
That's who is going to get the lightning rod or the criticism or the praise, appreciation, or whatever. So fair or unfair, Trevor Lawrence has got to do something with this offense. And there are problems with the offensive line, and issues. I don't know if he's got the trust yet, play calling, whatever. He's got to make something happen. What better time to do it than at Buffalo on Monday night? Last time we saw Trevor in a primetime game, it did not end up well. I think he ended up
that was when he got hurt.
Leaving the game. And so we'll see. Hopefully better things. Jaguars always win games. They're not supposed to win. Lose games. They're not supposed to lose. That's kind of a pattern. This is one they should lose, probably.
They did lose a pair of games in prime time last year. We'll see if maybe they can bounce back and put on a little bit of a better showing. So let's talk about this. So a couple of injuries that are worth noting. Looks like Darnell Savage is going to be able to go at the time of recording this on Friday.
Yep.
Evan Ingram, probably not going to be with that guy for maybe another week.
Mm-hmm.
So no Evan Ingram, but you get Darnell Savage back. Brenton Strange played okay in replacement of Ingram. So we're going to be keeping an eye on some things, but this team has to figure out a way. You cannot, under no circumstances, can you fall to 0-3. Now, here's the one thing that I've kind of gotten on this thing at this point. So last year, this time, they were 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
If they win in Buffalo, they're 1-2. So they're right back to where they were last year. You know how the start to last season went. They went 8-3 before the wheels came off the thing. So while we're talking about it, you're like, oh, they're 0-2 and they're on the brink, teeter-tottering on the brink of destruction.
One win is huge. It goes a long way.
One win, and all of a sudden they've righted the ship. I talked to Gabe Davis in the locker room this week, and Gabe goes back to the old school thinking of the season is in quarters. And he said, look, we lost 2. We need to finish this quarter 2-2. And then we want to go 4-0 the next quarter. They want to go 4-0 the next quarter and kind of roll it that way. And you got 4 quarters plus the 1 extra game.
Right.
So they're looking at it that way. And last year, they finished the first quarter 2-2 and were able to kind of get rolling. They're kind of at that point. Look, I don't think we question the talent level of this football team. I don't think, at least I don't. I think this is a talented group of guys that, for some reason, and I wish I had the solution to this because I would love to give you some profound description of this thing and fix it and hey, whatever, they should call Jamal and
right.
But they lost a spark.
Yep.
We call it injuries, you call it whatever. The team got flat. They lost that spark. They were 8-3 and the wheels came off, and the only team they could beat was a really bad Panthers team that, can the Panthers win a game? I don't know.
They're bad.
They're bad. They're bad. So how much does that even count for? They've lost that spark. And whether the spark comes from Trevor Lawrence telling them, look, we suck right now, or it comes from somebody else, they have to find that spark again if they're going to get back on the right track.
Yeah, I think it was the most animated we've ever seen Trevor in Jacksonville. Him calling out and saying, hey, we suck right now. And that's a blunt, honest, real, raw emotion. And right after a game, he just, completely disappointed on what he sees because he knows what Jacksonville's capable of. You look back to 2022, back was against the wall. They had to play perfect down that stretch with the exception of that loss to the Lions, and they did. Back was against the wall. You knew what that team was capable of. Yeah. This team right now has more talent, bar none, than that team in 2022, which made that run. So that's why, Christian Kirk, I think you asked him a question earlier this week, and Christian said, this frustration comes from a good place.
Right.
Because Trevor and the guys in the locker room know how talented of a team we are, and we are way too talented to be playing this poorly. And whatever, you can't put your finger on the pulse of what's going wrong, communication, blocking misses, whatever the case may be, you're too talented to be 0-2.
And I think that's where you see, if you watch any of the press conferences from Doug, we see a lot of them. We see them all. you can see through the body language from Doug Peterson after the losses, even in the midweek thing where he's answering these questions, the frustration, because he's trying to figure out the answer to where that problem is. Most of this offense has been together for the better part of 3 years, but those problems still exist. Talking about the Bills. They have a Josh Allen. Now, that Josh Allen has struggled against the Jaguars historically over the past couple of years. We'll keep an eye on whether or not he can have a big game or not. But there's some interesting things around this Buffalo team. Polar opposite spot of where the Jaguars are. Jags are 0-2. Bills are 2-0. So two different ends of the spectrum. We're going to keep this episode pretty concise. So, Justin, win or lose, are you picking the Jaguars to do this thing?
Man, and I kind of like I alluded to, I think they win the games they're not supposed to, lose the games that they should win. I think my heart tells me that Jacksonville can win on Monday Night Football, but until that offense performs a little more consistently, I've got to pick against them. I'm going to go with the Bills in a close game, maybe a 3 or 4 point Buffalo win.
I'm going to roll with the Jaguars in this one. Similar to the line of thought to where you're at, but I look, this is, if they lose this game, this will be the last time I pick them for a while until they prove me wrong. But I think this team is talented. I think they're in a spot where they feel their backs against the wall, and we've seen this team fight their way back from being up against the wall before. They are too talented to fall to 0-3. I think they know an 0-3 hole. Like 0-2, you can come back from 0-3. You're basically figuring out just how bad it is. So I think they're going to win this game. One of the things that leads me to believe that is that through 2 weeks of the season, the Jaguars have the second most explosive plays for 20-plus more yards in the NFL. So if you remember last year where we had the discussions about the Jaguars' offense, it was that they had no explosive plays. It was like a lack of explosives, and all of a sudden, light switch comes on, you bring Brian Thomas Jr. in, and all of a sudden these explosives are showing up. It's the singles. It's the singles and the doubles that aren't existing. They're not getting the 5 yards here, the 5 yards there. It's either 66 yards or it's nothing.
Right.
It's 20 yards or it's nothing. I mean, think about one of the drives where they got to the red zone. Travis Etienne pops a big run. Trevor Lawrence pops a big run. And the drive stalls against the Browns right there in the red zone. It's that. So they have to find those singles. I think, and maybe I'm just the crazy one that believes this, but I think those singles are easier to find than to find the explosives. So I do think that they're going to be able to get back on track and where they need to be. So I'm going to pick the Jaguars in this one. I do think they're going to put up some points. I think they're going to put up I got them putting up like 30. I think they're going to put up just about as many points that they scored in 2 weeks in one night. Maybe I'm just the crazy guy here, but I think they're going to put that together. I think Christian Kirk's going to get involved, and I think we're going to see another big day from BTJ, and maybe Trevor Lawrence have himself a day.
Yeah, the Bills have lost 2 in a row against Jacksonville, one last year in London, the other one in 2021 when Urban Meyer was coaching in a 9-6 game that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Man.
So Jags have won 2 in a row over Buffalo. The 25-20 game last year in London was actually a little bit more dominant than I think that score indicated for the Jaguars. They played really well in that game. So we'll see. And they had won a playoff game over here against Sean McDermott back in the day, 10-3 in a great defensive performance in 2017. The Jacksonville. So crazy things can happen, and for Jacksonville, whatever reason, they have had Buffalo's number recently, and I do think that's why, you alluded to the back against the wall, I do think that's why Jacksonville, and we've talked about this, Frank Frangie, they tend to play down against teams they should whomp and roll over and end up losing that game, and then they kind of overachieve against teams that people, national media, don't think that Jacksonville can shine against. So this is, to me, falls in that category.
This is definitely that category because the Bills are a team with high expectations that are rolling, and the Jaguars are a team that's reeling in the moment. So we'll see. Justin and I are split on this game. Look, it's a tough spot for the team, but I think their back's against the wall. If they win this one, winning cures all ills, right, and kind of get you to the spot where you were after 3 weeks of last season. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they can get rolling. Sometimes you just need one win. You just got to get one under your belt. We'll see what happens. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. I know this one was a little bit of a quick podcast. Wanted to get this out so it could roll your way for Monday. But we'll have plenty more of these coming. We'll see what happens on Monday night, and we'll see you next time.